Hey folks, welcome back to True Crime Stories, where we cover the most thrilling true crime stories. Before we get going, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for me. Thanks. And now let's get into today's story.
Welcome back, everybody. We are diving deep today into a case from Elysium Bay, a place that, if you've listened to this show, is near and dear to my heart. Elysium Bay is known for its thriving arts scene, but we'll uncover some pretty dark secrets, even in this idyllic setting. So the case that we're looking at today is about Claire Reynolds. She's a gifted musician, really on the cusp of stardom. And her life takes a very dramatic turn the night before a really prestigious music competition. So we've got a ton of sources to go through today. We've got firsthand accounts, witness testimonies, police reports. We've even got some really intriguing journal entries. It looks like those really add a layer of mystery to this case. So you're ready to put your detective hat on and join me as we try to unravel this alongside Detective Maya Rodriguez. And we also have the help of the very enigmatic retired investigator, Henry Fletcher.
I think it's so fascinating that this attack on Clara really just shattered this idea that Elysium Bay was so peaceful and tranquil. Really makes you wonder what's lurking beneath the surface of that community. After all, when there's, talent and ambition, there's often rivalry and hidden motives.
Right, yeah. Okay, so let's set the scene. It's the night before this big competition. Clara is at the Elysium Bay Arts Academy. Her fingers are dancing across the strings of her violin as she rehearses late into the night. You can really feel the anticipation and the pressure of the upcoming event. She decides to step out for just a breath of fresh air. She's looking for a moment of quiet amidst all the intensity of her preparations. And this leads her to a dimly lit alley behind the academy. It's a space that's usually just humming with creative energy. But on this night, it's cloaked in this really unsettling silence.
I find the choice of setting really intriguing. I mean, you have this alley that's normally a place of artistic expression, but now it's transformed into this stage for such a brutal act. This contrast between the beauty of Clara's music and the violence of the attack is such a stark reminder that darkness can really lurk in even the most unexpected places.
Yeah, I agree. And this is where things get really chilling. So Clara is standing in that dimly lit alley, and then all of a sudden a figure just kind of emerges from the shadows. She doesn't get a good look at them. But there's just something about their silhouette and their posture that triggers this feeling of unsettling familiarity. And then this specific cologne wafts through the air. It's a scent that she knows really well, and it ties this shadowy figure to her past. But before she can really react or even place the scent or the silhouette, everything goes black.
That detail about the cologne is brilliant, don't you think? It just immediately introduces this personal element to the attack. It suggests that there's some kind of connection between Clara and her attacker.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely narrows down the suspect list to someone who's been close enough to her to be familiar with that scent. It's a tantalizing clue for sure. So what happens next?
So later, Clara is discovered. She's unconscious. Her precious violin is shattered beside her, almost like this symbol of the violence that was inflicted upon her. And when she wakes up in the hospital bed, her body is obviously bearing the wounds of the attack, but her mind is just shrouded in this dense fog of amnesia. So the attack leaves her physically scarred and emotionally vulnerable. She has essentially been robbed of her memory of the event.
I can't imagine the trauma of that. To be so brutally attacked and then to have no memory of it, no way to piece together what happened or who did it. It just seems incredibly frustrating.
Absolutely. The lack of memory is a huge obstacle in the investigation. It's like trying to solve a puzzle with missing pieces, and it adds this whole other layer of psychological suspense to the case. Will Clara's memories return? And if they do, what will they reveal?
Right. And while Clara is struggling to piece together those fragmented memories, the town of Elysium Bay is reeling from the shock of this attack. Fear and grief grip the community. News of the incident spreads like wildfire. Like that whole idyllic facade of this artistic haven is totally shattered. And in its place, there's just this sense of vulnerability and unease. So the attack on Clara becomes this chilling reminder that darkness can penetrate even the most seemingly safe and harmonious environments. The pressure to find the culprit is on, for sure.
And that's where Detective Maya Rodriguez comes in. She's a seasoned investigator known for her sharp instincts and her meticulous approach to solving cases. But she's not alone in her pursuit of justice. Drawn to the case by his protective instincts and a past that's filled with moral complexities is Henry Fletcher. He's a retired investigator who is looking for a peaceful retirement in Elysium Bay.
Oh, Henry Fletcher. Such an enigmatic, morally ambiguous character. It seems like he's kind of drawn to trouble even in retirement. He just can't resist the allure of a good mystery, especially one that hits so close to home. I feel like there's a lot of baggage there. What do we know about his past?
Well, we only have glimpses into Henry's history from scattered accounts and rumors circulating around town. There are whispers about a past case, a difficult decision that he made that seems to really haunt him to this day. It's like he's constantly struggling to reconcile with the choices he made in the line of duty.
So he brings a lot of experience to the table, but also his own personal demons. That makes him a valuable but unpredictable asset to the investigation for sure.
Definitely. He becomes this unofficial consultant to Detective Rodriguez, offering his insights and his unique perspective from years of grappling with the dark side of human nature. And so together they begin to sift through the evidence, and they start uncovering this tangled web of potential suspects, each with their own connection to Clara and their own secrets and motives.
Okay, let's talk suspects. Who are the key players in this twisted symphony of suspicion?
Well, first we have Lucas Trent. He's also a musician and a rival of Clara's. There's some bad blood between them, fueled by accusations of plagiarism and this really fierce competition for recognition in the music scene.
Oh, a rivalry within the artistic community. That's always a recipe for drama, isn't it?
Yeah.
All that pressure, the jealousy, the struggle for recognition, it can bring out the worst in people.
Exactly. And in Lucas's case, his resentment towards Clara is totally palpable. Witnesses even describe him as visibly agitated when he talks about her success. Plus, his alibi for the night of the attack is weak, riddled with inconsistencies, and his behavior during questioning is far from innocent.
So we've got motive, we've got opportunity, and we've got a suspect who seems to be cracking under pressure. Lucas is definitely at the top of the suspect list.
He's a strong contender. But let's not jump to conclusions. We need to consider all angles and explore every possibility. And this is where the case gets really intriguing.
Ooh, I love a good twist. Tell me more. Who else is on the radar?
Well, next up we have Anna Porter. She's Claire's best friend. Now, this might seem counterintuitive, but friendships, especially in intensely competitive environments, can be really complex.
Right. Even the closest friends can harbor feelings of envy, insecurity, resentment, especially when one friend's star is rising while the other one feels left behind in the shadows.
Exactly. And Anna, despite her outward affection for Clara, seems to be grappling with these very emotions. Her journal entries paint a picture of a woman who's torn between admiration for her friend's talent and this gnawing envy that's threatening to consume her.
So she's got motive, but does she have opportunity? Was she even at the academy that night?
Well, her journal entries actually place her at the academy on the night of the attack. She claims that she was alone in her studio working late on her own projects. But her alibi is, let's just say, flimsy at best.
Okay, so we've got two suspects, two compelling motives, and two shaky alibis. This case is getting more intriguing by the minute. Who else is in the mix?
Well, hold on, there's more. Let's not forget about Mark Corbin. He's Claire's ex-lover. He vanished from Elysium Bay years ago under mysterious circumstances, leaving behind a trail of heartbreak and unanswered questions. And guess what? He's recently returned just before the attack.
Oh, wow. Talk about bad timing.
Ah.
I bet that raised a few eyebrows. What's his story? Why did he leave? And why is he back now?
Well, his reasons for leaving remain a mystery, but rumors suggest a really tumultuous relationship with Clara, possibly involving betrayal, heartbreak, and a thirst for revenge.
Ah, the scorned lover. Always a good suspect in a crime of passion. But we need more than just rumors and speculation. Is there any concrete evidence linking him to the attack?
Well, witnesses did place him near the academy on the night of the attack, and his words are often laced with these poetic metaphors about love loss and retribution, which seems to hint at some deep-seated resentment that could easily boil over into violence.
Okay, so now we've got three compelling suspects, each with their own tangled connection to Clara, their own motives and opportunities. This is shaping up to be a real head-scratcher.
But wait, there's one more piece to add to this puzzle. A character who might hold the key to unlocking this mystery. Remember those intriguing journal entries we mentioned? Well, they actually belong to Clara's late mother, who was also a talented musician.
Ah, wow, interesting. What kind of secrets do those journals hold, and how do they connect to Clara's attack?
Well, the journals are filled with her reflections on the struggles of being an artist, the pressures of competition, and there's this recurring theme of envy that just seems to haunt her thoughts. And hidden within those pages is a reference to this haunting melody, a piece of music that she claims holds the truth.
A hidden melody. This is getting really interesting. I'm sensing a connection here. A link between the mother's past, the mysterious melody, and the attack on Clara.
It definitely adds a layer of intrigue to the case. And as we dig deeper into these journals, we uncover another curious detail. One of Anna's recent paintings bears an eerie resemblance to the alley where Clara was attacked.
Whoa, hold on. Are you suggesting that Anna might have subconsciously documented the crime scene in her art? Or could this be a deliberate attempt to mislead the investigation? This case is full of twists and turns.
It's a fascinating piece of the puzzle, isn't it? This artistic clue adds a whole other dimension to Anna's potential involvement. Did she witness the attack? Or was she somehow involved in orchestrating it? Or is it all just a bizarre coincidence?
So many questions, so many potential leads to follow. What happens next?
So Detective Rodriguez, armed with these new clues, decides to confront Anna and Lucas. This leads to a tense confrontation that exposes their intertwined relationships and hidden motives.
This is where things get really juicy. I can't wait to hear what unfolds in that interrogation room.
We'll stay tuned, we'll analyze the confrontation, delve into the secrets revealed, and inch closer to uncovering the truth behind Claire's attack in the next part of our deep dive.
Welcome back to our deep dives into the attack on Clara Reynolds in Elysium Bay. As we left off, Detective Rodriguez was about to confront both Anna and Lucas, armed with this unsettling discovery of Anna's painting and these deepening suspicions around both of them.
Right.
The more we uncover about this case, the more it feels like we're peeling back the layers of this complex psychological onion. I mean, it's not just about the physical act of violence, but also all these hidden resentments and these unspoken anxieties that seem to simmer beneath the surface of this seemingly harmonious community.
It really does go to show how the pursuit of art can be a breeding ground for such intense competition envy, and in some cases like this, even violence.
Yeah. Okay, so let's step into that interrogation room. What's the atmosphere like? How does Detective Rodriguez approach this whole confrontation?
Well, the police report describes the interrogation room as pretty stark and impersonal, designed to strip away any sense of comfort or security, a space meant to really break down those defenses and expose the raw nerves beneath these carefully crafted facades.
It's almost like a stage itself,
Yeah.
where the performance is all about deception and truth. And of course, this high-stakes game of cat and mouse between the detective and the suspect.
Exactly. And Detective Rodriguez, a master of this psychological theater, if you will, she starts by focusing her attention on Anna. She lays out the evidence starting with the painting and its chilling resemblance to the alley where Clara was attacked. She even points out these uncanny details like the way the brushstrokes seem to echo the violence of the act itself.
Oh, wow. Imagine being Anna in that moment. You've poured your heart and soul into your art, only to have it turned against you, interpreted as a confession or a clue. That's going to be terrifying.
Oh, absolutely. And Anna is visibly shaken. At first, she claims that it's all a coincidence, a figment of her artistic imagination. But her voice is trembling, her eyes are darting nervously around the room, and her body language just betrays her words. It's like she's trying to convince herself as much as the detective.
Right. It's always interesting how our nonverbal cues can often reveal more than words.
Yeah, our bodies really do have a way of betraying our carefully crafted narratives. And Detective Rodriguez picks up on these subtle tells. She presses further and brings up the journal entries, the raw emotions that are expressed in those pages, the simmering envy, the feelings of inadequacy, all those things that lurk beneath Anna's outward affection for Clara.
I bet that's a really difficult moment for Anna, to have her most private thoughts, her deepest insecurities laid bare before the scrutiny of the law.
Oh, for sure. It's a classic interrogation technique, to dismantle a suspect's defenses by confronting them with their own words and vulnerabilities. And in this case, it works. Anna cracks. Tears stream down her face as she confesses to feeling overshadowed by Clara's success and battling the sense of inadequacy that threatens her own artistic aspirations. But she vehemently denies any involvement in the attack, claiming that her painting was just an outlet for her emotions, not a premonition or confession.
So she's admitting to the envy, to that inner turmoil, but not to the act itself. Clever strategy. Acknowledge the motive while deflecting responsibility for the crime. But is Detective Rodriguez buying it?
Well, she's listening intently, observing Anna's every move, every flicker of emotion. But she's not ready to let her off the hook just yet. She's built a whole career on seeing through these facades, piecing together the truth from fragments of evidence and subtle behavioral cues. And just when Anna thinks she might have weathered the storm, Detective Rodriguez shifts gears. She brings Lucas into the interrogation room.
Oh, this is where things get really interesting. The tension in that room must have been so thick you could cut it with a knife. After all, Lucas has his own reasons to feel anxious, his own secrets to protect.
The whole dynamic of the interrogation room shifts when Lucas enters. He comes in with this swagger, an air of defiance, but underneath that bravado, there's this palpable unease, like he knows he's walking into a carefully laid trap.
Right, and I bet Detective Rodriguez is more than happy to spring that trap. So what's her strategy with Lucas?
Well, she starts by confronting him with those accusations of plagiarism. pointing out all the similarities between his compositions and Clara's work, highlighting all the evidence that suggests a pattern of deceit and professional sabotage.
Oh man, that's gotta sting. To be accused of stealing another artist's work, of building your success on someone else's talent, it strikes at the very core of artistic integrity.
We're sure. Lucas, his pride, obviously wounded, dismisses the accusations as ancient history, a desperate attempt by a rival to tarnish his reputation. But Detective Rodriguez doesn't back down. She reminds him of his weak alibi, the inconsistencies in his story, the witnesses who placed him near the academy the night of the attack. She chips away at his defenses, reminding him that she's aware of his volatile temper, his history of lashing out when his ego is bruised.
It's like she's constructing a case brick by brick.
Yeah.
This wall of evidence and suspicion that becomes more and more difficult for him to climb over.
Exactly.
Hey.
And just when Lucas thinks he might be able to talk his way out of the situation, Detective Rodriguez drops a bombshell. She reveals that she knows about a secret meeting between him and Anna, a tense conversation that was overheard by a hidden microphone planted after the attack.
Whoa, a hidden microphone. That's some serious next-level investigative work. It seems like Detective Rodriguez had a hunch and decided to play the long game. What did that conversation reveal?
Well, the recording captures a really panicked exchange between Anna and Lucas. Their voices are hushed, filled with fear, and they're desperately trying to align their stories to cover their tracks. It's a conversation that's just riddled with contradictions and half-truths, and it just deepens the suspicion surrounding them both.
Wow, so it's not just a case of individual suspicion anymore. Now we have a potential conspiracy, a shared secret that links Anna and Lucas to this attack. How do they react to this revelation?
Well, faced with this pretty undeniable evidence, Lucas crumbles. That carefully constructed facade of defiance just cracks, revealing a man who is now consumed by fear and guilt. He confesses to the affair with Anna, acknowledging that they were both at the academy the night of the attack. But he insists that their meeting was innocent, just a chance encounter that spiraled into a moment of weakness.
But Detective Rodriguez isn't buying it, is she? She's heard way too many lies and seen too many carefully crafted deceptions to believe this flimsy excuse.
Right. She presses him harder, pointing out the inconsistencies in their alibis, the panicked tone of that overheard conversation, and all the mounting evidence that suggests something far more sinister than a chance encounter happened that night. And under this relentless pressure, Lucas makes a startling confession.
Okay, this is it, the moment of truth. What does he reveal?
Well, he admits that he did see Clara in the alley that night. And he claims that he was just consumed with rage, blinded by jealousy over her success, the way she effortlessly achieved everything that he struggled for. He says they argued, things escalated, and in a fit of anger, he shoved her, causing her to fall and hit her head.
So he's admitting to a confrontation, a physical altercation, but not to the stabbing, the deliberate act of violence that left Clara clinging to life. It's a partial confession, a carefully constructed narrative, acknowledging some wrongdoing while minimizing his own culpability. Do you think he's being truthful? Or is there more to this story?
Yeah. That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Lucas's confession offers a plausible explanation for Clara's injuries, but it leaves some pretty big gaps, unanswered questions that cast a shadow of doubt over his version of events.
Like what? What doesn't quite add up?
Well, for one, the severity of Clara's injuries. The stab wound that nearly took her life just doesn't align with a simple shove. And then there's the shattered violin. A deliberate act of destruction that suggests a level of rage that goes way beyond a heated argument.
Right, and what about the knife? If Lucas is claiming he simply shoved her, why was a knife found at the scene? Where did it come from? Why did he have it on him that night?
These are the questions that haunt Detective Rodriguez. She just senses that Lucas is holding back, that he's still protecting someone or something. And as she digs deeper into the evidence, she uncovers a series of really unsettling details. And these point to a far more complex and sinister truth.
Okay, now I'm on the edge of my seat. What does she discover?
Well, remember that haunting melody mentioned in Clara's mother's journal. Well, Clara's recovering at home now, and she's struggling to piece together these fragmented memories. She decides to delve into her mother's musical archives, seeking some solace and maybe a flicker of recognition in the notes that her mother left behind.
This is where the case really takes on a whole new dimension, doesn't it? This whole investigation merges with Clara's personal journey of healing, of reclaiming her voice both literally and figuratively. It's almost like she's composing her own symphony of justice, using the clues embedded in her life, her music, her mother's legacy.
It's a beautiful analogy. And as Claire explores her mother's musical legacy, she stumbles upon a hidden compartment in her mother's old music box. And inside she finds a sheet of music, a hauntingly beautiful melody, the very melody that haunted her mother's journal entries. And it's a melody that seems to echo in her own compositions, this musical thread that connects her to her mother's past, to the secrets buried in those journal pages.
This is incredible. A hidden melody, a connection to the past, a possible key to unlocking the truth behind this attack. What does Clara do with this newfound musical treasure?
Well, she does what any gifted musician would do. She plays it. But this isn't just any performance. It's a quest for understanding a way to tap into the emotional depths of the melody, to see if it triggers any lost memories, any hidden clues that might lead her closer to the truth.
So as she plays, as those notes fill the air, what happens?
The music acts as the sonic key, unlocking a chamber of her mind that was sealed shut by trauma and fear, and these fragmented images flash before her eyes, snippets of conversation, a kaleidoscope of sensory details that begin to coalesce into a more coherent narrative.
Okay, this is it. The breakthrough we've been waiting for. What does she remember?
She remembers the scent of the cologne, the glint of a silver object in the dim light, a voice, a face, and then it hits her. This realization just crashes over her like a tidal wave washing away the fog of amnesia, leaving behind a stark and terrifying truth.
Don't leave us hanging. Who does she remember? Who attacked her that night?
Well, stay tuned. We'll unveil the identity of Claire's attacker, explore that intricate web of motives, and delve into those shocking revelations as we conclude our deep dive into this captivating case in the final part of our episode.
Welcome back to our deep dive. So last time we left off with Clara experiencing this breakthrough. Her memory was triggered by that haunting melody from her mother's past. And now she remembers the face of her attacker. But the big question is, who is it?
This is where the case takes this totally unexpected turn. It's not Lucas who is consumed by jealousy and ambition. It's not Anna who is wrestling with her own insecurities and artistic aspirations. And it's not even Mark, the ex-lover, who vanished and returned under that cloud of suspicion.
Wow, okay, you gotta tell me. Who is it?
The person Clara remembers is Oliver Granger, that quiet, unassuming luthier who crafted her beloved violin.
Wait, what? Oliver. The man who seemed more concerned about the intricacies of wood and varnish than the drama swirling around him? I did not see that coming.
It's a classic example of how we often overlook the quiet ones, you know? Those individuals who kind of blend into the background. We assume they're harmless, even insignificant. But sometimes it's in their shadows that the darkest secrets reside.
So true.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Why Oliver? What could possibly drive a craftsman, an artist himself, to commit such a violent act against another artist?
Well, the motive, as it turns out, is this tangled web of professional pride, financial desperation, and this really twisted sense of entitlement. Remember that dispute over the design of Clara's violin, that seemingly minor disagreement about the placement of an inlay? Well, it turns out that was just the tip of the iceberg.
Wow, I'm starting to see how even the smallest crack can shatter a seemingly perfect surface. So what happened? How did this dispute escalate into this act of violence?
Oliver was facing financial ruin. His once thriving business was dwindling as tastes changed and new artisans emerged. And he saw Clara's rising fame as a reflection of his craftsmanship, as a ticket out of his financial woes. He believed that he deserved a share of her success, a percentage of her earnings, not just a flat fee for the instrument.
So it was all about the money. He attacked her for a bigger payout.
Well, it's a little more complex than that. Money was a factor for sure, but there was also this element of obsession and unhealthy attachment. Oliver had poured his heart and soul into crafting that violin, and he saw Clara as an extension of his creation, his muse. And when she rejected his demands, threatened to expose their dispute, he felt betrayed, enraged. He saw her success as a threat to his livelihood, to his legacy.
That's chilling. To think that someone could feel so entitled to another person's success to the point of resorting to violence to try to control them is a disturbing reminder of the dark side of human nature, of the lengths that people will go to when their ego and their livelihood are on the line.
And we can't forget about the symbolic act of destroying her violin. It wasn't just about harming Clara physically. It was about silencing her, extinguishing her talent, the very talent he felt he had nurtured.
Right. He wasn't just trying to hurt her physically. He was trying to break her spirit, to sever that connection between her and the music that brought her so much acclaim. It's just this twisted and tragic act of artistic sabotage.
Exactly. This case really highlights that complex relationship between art and the human psyche. The passion, the ambition, the drive for recognition that fuels creative expression can also lead to these destructive impulses, to a blurring of the lines between reality and fantasy.
Okay, so what happens next? How does Detective Rodriguez finally unravel this intricate web of deception and bring Oliver to justice?
While confronted with Clara's recovered memory, the police quickly uncover additional evidence linking Oliver to the scene. A witness remembers seeing him lurking near the academy that night. Forensic analysis reveals traces of his workshop dust on Clara's clothing, and when he's confronted with all this mounting evidence, Oliver cracks.
So the quiet craftsman, the man who had blended so seamlessly into the background, is finally exposed. What about Lucas and Anna? How do they fare in the aftermath of this revelation?
Lucas, consumed by guilt over his role in the cover-up, and maybe even relieved that the truth has come out. He fully cooperates with the investigation, providing details about his relationship with Anna, their attempt to protect each other, and his decision to take the blame, hoping to shield Anna from scrutiny.
It's a misguided act of chivalry, isn't it? To sacrifice your own reputation, your own future to try to protect someone you love, even if it means obstructing justice, allowing a guilty party to escape accountability.
It's a decision driven by love loyalty, and maybe even a desperate attempt to atone for his own feelings of envy and inadequacy. Anna, however, maintains her innocence, claiming she had no knowledge of Oliver's plan, that she was just swept up in Lucas's attempt to protect her.
But Detective Rodriguez isn't totally convinced, is she? Anna's painting her journal entries her presence at the academy that night. It all paints a picture of a woman who is deeply entangled in the events that transpired.
Right, there's a lingering suspicion, a sense that Anna might be holding back, that she knows more than she's letting on. But without any concrete evidence, without a confession or witness to corroborate her involvement, Detective Rodriguez has to accept her version of events.
So justice is served, but maybe not entirely. Oliver is held accountable for his actions, but Lucas and Anna are left to grapple with the consequences of their choices. Their reputations tarnish, their futures uncertain. And what about Clara? How does she cope with the aftermath of this traumatic experience, the betrayal by those she trusted? The realization that the very instrument that had brought her so much joy was also a symbol of her vulnerability.
Clara's journey is one of resilience and transformation. She channels her pain, her anger, her fear into her music, composing a powerful piece that reflects her struggle, her healing, and her determination to reclaim her voice. She also becomes an advocate for victims of violence within the arts community, using her platform to raise awareness and to create safe spaces for creative expression.
That's so inspiring as a reminder that even in the face of darkness, even after experiencing something so traumatic, it's possible to find strength, to channel that pain into something positive, to use your voice to help others. Any final thoughts for our listeners as we wrap up this deep dive?
I think the case of Clara Reynolds is a stark reminder that appearances can be deceiving. Even the most idyllic settings can harbor dark secrets. It also highlights the power of art to heal, to inspire, and to reveal hidden truths. And perhaps most importantly, it leaves us with this thought-provoking question. Can the very act of creation, of pouring your heart and soul into a work of art, be twisted into a form of control? A weapon wielded to silence or even destroy another artist's voice? It's something to really think about as we navigate this complex world of art, ambition, and the human psyche.
That's a chilling thought, but a really crucial one. It's a reminder to be aware of the power dynamics that exist within creative communities, to recognize the signs of unhealthy obsession, and to support those who might be struggling with the pressures of artistic ambition. Well, thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the case of Clara Reynolds. We'll be back next week with another fascinating story.